Take a quick look at NVDY today, maybe mix in a little bit of a new fund, the Roblox Fund, RBLY. Just take a peer at that. That's a very small fund, but I won't leave anything out. So I'll take a look at that. But the main point here is look at NVDY, which is based on the underlying equity of Nvidia. As you can see, of the single stock ETFs, NVDY has been a good performer, total return percent of 153% since inception date of 5/2023 or May of 2023. It is trading down from when it initially opened at 20 at 1637, but it's paid enough cumulative distributions to have a total return percent, as a note, of 153%. That too, it is behind Misty, of course. It's funny how these are correlated. Misty, the largest fund and also the best performing fund. NVDY, the second best performing fund and the second largest fund at 1.8 billion currently. As far as those who own Nvidia probably know, but just to break it down, it's been a distribution for a while. The average has been at about $1.18 a share. Recently, it's been a little lower than that at 64 cents, 84 cents, $1.29. That said, if we look at the price plus the cumulative distribution, we can see that the total dividend paid, or I should say distribution paid thus far, is $34.19 with the most recent payout that came out a couple weeks ago. But so as far as NVDY, take an in-depth look at it here quick. We can see NVDA, it's actually the unique experience today where Nvidia was down 2.82%, but the YieldMax fund was only down 1.81%. So a relative outperformance for NVDY. Why is that? You can see by the black dotted line, the video was down $5 a day. So if you add 5 on the 78, it was between the 183 and 184 when the market opened. However, currently it's sitting under 179, which means it originally, I guess prior to today's action, would pass the 182.50 and the 180 strike prices. But with the recent fall of the stock strike price, you can see that these options are now out of the money, which therefore, I guess, saved NVDY, the ETF, some relative value. So therefore, providing the outperformance of NVDY today versus NVDA. Most people probably know that, but just a quick breakdown for those who are new to the funds. As far as how NVDA is structured for this week, it still has a 177.50 calls. It has, it looks like 15,000 of those contracts sold. So those are currently in the money as the stock price is above those currently. And then we got calls bought at 187.50 and 190. As far as the fund makeup, decent amount of money in the synthetic. This is from an overall fund size. You can see the ETF itself is at that 1.84 billion mark. Got about 1.7 billion in cash. Their synthetics worth 180 million, or I probably should say 180.9 million. And the contracts that have sold right now have a relative value of negative 33 million at the moment. So if those expire worthless, it's 33 million added to the fund to pump the ETF price up, hopefully by that much. On a per share basis, these are the same metrics on a per share basis. Yeah, synthetics $1.62, ETF price $16.58, $15.25 in cash. And then just from a synthetic, you do see that for every call they sell, they buy one. So every call they sell, they buy one at a higher strike price at a 1-to-1 ratio, thereby employing the credit spread method at a 100% ratio. And 103,640 contracts, that's what they're currently able to sell based on their collateral. What I'd like to do in the future, I think, is keep track of how many contracts that they have collateral to sell, just see how that trends against time. And then I also want to see their synthetic strike prices. So where their synthetics are, you can see currently they have a 165 and a 170. I think it'd be nice to track that over time to see what their synthetic strategy is when they cash out a synthetic if the stock goes high, or when they take a loss on a synthetic if the stock goes low, and where exactly they restructure at. I could probably collect that data and then just see how that flows going into the future. Since they do have two synthetics, I guess I don't have it here. I'll have to add it. I usually have a tab that shows the synthetic makeup. What percent is at what strike price, respectively. I'll add that in the future. I didn't know I didn't have that for this one. But as far as fund size, jumped in here. The NVDY has been relatively flat for the last month or two, both in terms of market cap as well as shares outstanding. That said, Nvidia has been somewhat volatile lately. Recently, they had I'm just reading here, they had the $100 billion investment in OpenAI to support the AI data centers, which theoretically or ironically use its own GPU, so it seems like a good investment, potentially generating $300 to $500 billion in revenue. All the analysts generally have buy ratings. This came after China. I guess it was originally hit because China said you couldn't buy NVIDIA chips. You also got competitors in China. Huawei, 3-year plan to compete with NVIDIA. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, but anyway, NVIDIA has the underlying stock tends to be up and down just by the headlines of the day. So it's an interesting one to track over time. Jumping into the fund makeup per share. So we got the metrics on a per share basis. Down here, we basically got those same metrics on a time series. So we can see how they're doing over time. NVIDIA recently, you can see they paid out that dividend recently. I believe it was in like the 60-cent range. Since then, their cash has gone from 1526 to 1525. So their cash has actually stayed relatively the same. And the ETF price actually has stayed relatively the same. So that's always nice. You get the distribution with the ETF price. It's probably even up a little bit from when the distribution was paid. Why is that? Because with the increase in the NVIDIA stock price, you can see their synthetic's been doing pretty well. When you have the ETF price stay the same, but the cash go down, and these other two metrics look the same, the only reasonable cause is to suggest that they restructured their synthetic or cashed it in, thereby moving the strike price to a higher strike and taking in some of that cash so that they're taking in some of that cash to keep their cash levels elevated. Or I guess I should say, right when that was paid out, I think if you draw straight down, it looks like it actually lined up with the synthetic actually going up. So that's why the ETF prices stayed the same. Through this period, I'm actually going to take my previous comments back. I don't know if they cashed out the synthetic. Looks like it might have just stayed relatively here at $1.08. My drawdown line was not accurate there, so I will take back that comment. But yeah, you can see they got 30 cents per share in contracts sold. Their synthetics at $1.62. I've been doing a little better. It's probably taking a little dip today with the NVIDIA share price going down. But yeah, I guess that's how those components have been trending as of lately. It'd be nice to see them get their cash position up a little bit. But that's NVIDIA for those who follow it. And then just a quick touch base on a really small fund. Maybe you don't even know about it yet, but RBLY, or their Roblox single stack ETF from the YieldMax fund. But you can see a lot of my charts only got one data point because I've only paid one distribution, and it was $2.73, which seems like a lot, but these funds did come out at $50 a share. Pretty good. It's multiplied by 2. You got about a 4.15% payout for the month. And not only that, but the ETF price is also up. So if you start with a $50 initial investment, as of the distribution date, you would have been looking at a pretty good return. If we jump into the in-depth details, we can see that Roblox was down today, 3.38%, but RBLY was only down 2.72%, reflecting that some of these options they sold did go down in value, therefore taking a little bit of the sting out of the RBLX underlying equity going down in value. RBLY is at 53.54, came out at 50, so that's nice to see. Got about a 6%, 7% return on the ETF with the 4% return through the monthly dividend thus far. So quick math, you're looking at over a 10% return thus far for this fund. It has a synthetic structured at 30 currently, stock price at about 133, or it looks like 132.22, so a little less than this stock price metric, which was pulled a little earlier. So therefore, from a fund makeup perspective, their synthetic's positive at $2.82 a share, and the fund is quite small. You can see a market cap of just over 2 million. So that's the whole fund's worth 2 million. That is definitely quite small. You can also see that in the fund, let's see, makeup. All right, what I want to say is their synthetic usage risk. So you can see they're only playing around. Their synthetic's only 205 contracts. So that's how small this fund is. They own 205 contracts, which means they bought 205 calls at the 130 strike, and they also sold 230 puts at the 130 strike. So a very small fund. When you look at this and you think an ETF that's only 2.7 million. Yeah, 2.73 or 74 million in size. So this fund is definitely just getting up and running. We'll see how it fares. I really don't have much more analysis to add at the moment. I just wanted to point it out. It's new investors are up about 10%. If you're interested in the Roblox stock, but want to make it into kind of a dividend pair or monthly distribution pair, maybe Roblox would be something to consider. Anyway, thanks for tuning in today.